Now, the Chicago, Illinois Raw was actually very good. I feel that if I had to compare the two Raws that just happened in the last 2 weeks, I would say the Raw previously to this one was actually a much better Raw. Not saying this isn't a good Raw, no. But I think the other one had a little bit more than this one. Just a little bit. Now, I have to say that I feel sorry for the primetime players because they're not getting pushed anymore. From what I can tell, there's no more push. Because when you look at them versus the Wyatts, they got nailed. And then last week before that, I can't remember who they went up against, but they got nailed there too. Who the hell did they face last week? I don't remember. But I think they faced someone last week as well, and they didn't win either. So it feels like their push has been ended. I hope I'm wrong, because the Titus O'Neil, Darren Young is really good. I just wish they would show them more on Raw or SmackDown, not just wrestling, but really showing their personality. When they first started out with Abraham Washington, baby, and he got screwed. I say it like this: he got screwed for thinking out loud. Does that mean that was the right thing to do? No and yes. Because the WWE does have their own image to uphold as far as they're concerned. It doesn't matter if it's right or not. But the point is, they show such great charisma. They're not showing it on the main show. They can get over big time even without wrestling. But I just don't see that going to happen with them. And that's actually quite sad. I really hope their push is still going. Just because they lost to the Wyatts. And I have to say something about the Wyatts, but I really feel sorry for them. But in this case, the Wyatts versus primetime players, Wyatts win this, but the Wyatts aren't doing that well. I feel like they lost a huge amount of steam. I mean, their steam is gone. To me, I still am interested in them. I still want to see them succeed. But without Kane there, or any other type of character that has a similar type of problem, I don't see this working for much longer. They had a great opportunity with Kane. I said this before, that Kane needs to join them. But he's off doing something else. Maybe he's doing a movie or taking some time off because of injury or family. I don't try to keep up with it 100% because that, to me, takes away the mystique of being a wrestling fan. You need to know what's going on because you want to understand. But there's a certain level not to cross. This is just for me. Marks, smart marks, dudes, I'm not telling you ain't right about looking at every aspect of wrestling. That's how wrestling is great for everyone. There's certain levels you go to. But for me personally, I want to be at a certain level, not to know absolutely everything. But the Wyatts aren't going anywhere right now. They have no one to challenge. They do some still good promos, but who are they going to promo against? So it feels kind of empty right now with them. Now, when it comes to the Santino Marella and Fandango, they had a match thrown together, and I believe they could have actually made a feud out of this if they had only given them a chance. The Miz versus Fandango feud wasn't too bad, but they just didn't give them enough time to talk against one another, do their own character development. It just wasn't there. And I have something to say about Miz later, but when it comes to Fandango versus Santino, Santino's totally entertaining. I love seeing Santino. Ooh. Sorry, I had some dental work done on my mouth again, so if I seem a little distracted, I'm sorry. But I really believe Santino and Fandango could actually have a very good feud. But since they were thrown together, I feel like they didn't gain anything. Sorry, I thought one of my cats fell. I have an old cat. She has a tendency to kind of lose balance. But I really believe if they had only allowed them to do something and then they promoted on SmackDown Raw, we actually could have some very interesting mid-card feud here. But it just wasn't there. Santino lost, where I think he should have won at least 3 matches in a row before he lost, because he just came back. And the flamingo leg drop was used by Fandango. The crowd was still loving him, and they loved Summer Rae. They screaming her name, and I'm sure Miss Ray got off on that. I'm sorry. I'm not saying women are totally sexual or nothing, but this is for wrestlers. Male and female are pretty much the same. When you hear 30 or 40,000 or 20,000 people chanting your name and it's not related to the match, just for you, you get kind of a rise out of it. I'm sure she did. So I'm going to move on to the next and very interesting situation. Kobe versus ADR. I believe ADR should have lost the match because of what happened with Rob Van Dam and Randy Orton later, and I'll get to them. But if you see it like this, if Kobe had been allowed to win that match, yes, they would give him a second match and he would probably lose it, obviously. No problem. He would lose a rematch to actually be considered in the title picture. I know he would have lost it. But the point is, if you want to make ADR more vicious, he should have been allowed to lose that match, then take that frustration out on RVD, which he did later against Rob Van Dam and RVD. That's how I felt. Because ADR did win the match, but it just didn't feel like it was enough. Now, Randy Orton and RVD, woo! This is what I said before about Randy Orton, that he reminds me of how he used to be when he was the Legend Killer. I know people will say the sadistic, vicious Randy Orton just after that, but I say this is the Legend Killer. You know why? Because during the time he was a Legend Killer, he demolished an RVD. If you remember when I believe the last match we saw RVD in WWE was against Randy Orton, and he did his bike DDT off the protected padded rail that basically ended RVD time in the WWE. I could be wrong, but that was around 2006 to 2007. That's what I remember. And this kind of had that shades of it. The match was great, but there was no clear winner. Well, there was a clear winner. RVD did win because Randy Orton didn't. Well, actually, there was no clear winner because there was a countout. I'm so sorry. I have a lot of stuff going on, and I said I'm in kind of some pain right now. But seeing Randy Orton really take out RVD the way he did, I really believe they've done a very good progression of turning Randy Orton from a good guy to a heel to a very vicious, destructive heel. This is the way he should have been packaged, as a monster. Instead of a monster babyface, being a monster heel is much better. Sorry, my nose is itchy. Now, the 10 Diva tag. I didn't like it. For the simple fact that I was hoping Divas versus Total Divas would actually become solid, become real. What do we got? We got AJ dealing with Total Divas directly. And when you see her talking with Stephanie, and Stephanie pretty much saying, I don't care if you don't want to face him, you're going to face him, you're going to lose your title. This just made me feel really bad. I mean, I'm glad the Divas are being highlighted because of what's going on with Total Divas, but here's the problem. I was hoping for a feud of the Divas versus the Total Divas. What did we get? As much as I'm glad to see my Naomi there, I'm in love with that woman. I'm glad to see Alicia Fox, and I'm glad Tamina was allowed to go and be seen, even though she didn't really wrestle. We didn't really get anything here. Of course, the only person that was the most highlighted here was Brie Bella. Brie Bella's already won the championship once already, so it looks like she's going to get a second chance at the Divas title and win it. But it doesn't feel like a feud. This is the problem I see. The Divas versus Total Divas didn't solidify. So the only thing they got here is just the women that's on TV versus one woman who's a champion. And the ones that should be our partners don't really give a damn. They don't like the Divas champion, but they don't like the Total Divas either. And you don't even see the conflict between the regular Divas and the Total Divas. I know that's a lot to take in, but that's how I see it. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the Miz TV segment. Seeing Miz get demolished last week was interesting as hell. I really didn't say that much about it because I wanted to see the aftermath of it. Also, I forgot. When I realized I forgot to mention it, I had to think about it and think, you know what, maybe the reason I just slipped my mind is because I wanted to see what The Miz was going to do. The Miz just really hasn't done much, and Miz TV has been very boring. Now, Triple H made Miz very interesting. Yes, he did, ladies and gentlemen. He brought the interest in Miz TV when he said, I'm letting you interview the wonderful, the glorious Big Show. But it had to be done because of what he did with Dusty Rhodes, baby. I am the Dream Dusty Rhodes, baby. I am the plumber's son. I have been eating pork and beans with kings and queens, and they have bowed by my feet. I had to say it, but you get my point. I can say this for The Miz. This could lead into something that The Miz could turn heel later, because we really need him as a heel more than a face right now. So this could lead him down the dark side, because he's had his time as a face, and he's not that interesting right now. Now, what did we get with the Big Show? He didn't really talk. It was The Miz who talked for him. And what The Miz said about him being the most respected person in the locker room isn't too far from the truth, because he is pretty well respected. And he's saying simply, they're trying to break you to break us. You have to step up. We stepped up last week. It's time for you. And that bitch, not in those words, but that bitch need to know her place. That's pretty much what he's trying to say. Seeing the luscious Stephanie McMahon come out, and I have to say luscious, not because she has some nice boobs, it's because she is Triple H's wife. And understand, Triple H just promoted Thy Kingdom Come. I believe that was the name of the I forgot the name of it. I'm sorry. I've had a lot on my mind. But that is the DVD that has been promoted, and seeing Stephanie there with Triple H, you must say she's luscious, not because her titties are nice, but because she is an intelligent woman who is the King of Kings' wife. She pretty much said to The Miz, you open your mouth too much, you're a nobody, and pretty much Big Show knock him out. And this is where it gets a little confusing with Big Show, because is he turning heel now, or is he just a very frustrated face? I say Big Show is still a frustrated face, because it would be foolish for them to turn him total heel now. For the simple fact, it wouldn't really lead that anywhere. What would be what would be the payout of turning Big Show from a face to a heel like this? I just don't see it that way. It would be better for him to rise up and then something interesting happens after that. I just don't see it. Maybe it's because it's still early and I just have a lot on my mind, like pain. You guys tell me below what you think it's going to be. Do you think it's not going anywhere? Or do you believe there's going to be progression? Or maybe you think the Big Show is still a very frustrated face. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is the 11-on-3 handicap elimination match. Seeing the beginning of the show with all those guys lined up, I was actually surprised. I found out that Vicky was going to nail these guys in a gauntlet match. I don't watch SmackDown still, but I can tell you this. Seeing that was actually a little different, at least for me. Anyone else, I can understand if they've seen it before. Seeing that it took Triple H and Stephanie to really put it over, put them over, put Daniel Bryan over, and then really try to put over the Shield. And this is very good. The Shield really has been totally without direction for so many months. Now having them with Triple H has given them new life. I just wish the Shields would... I'll put it to you like this. You got Dolph going after basically Dean Ambrose again. You got Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins going after the Usos, who were included in this match. Both of them. I would have liked them to have their own individual ring segments. Let Dean Ambrose talk by himself. Let Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, particularly Roman Reigns, who did an incredibly good showing during the match, they need to have their own separate talking time. It just doesn't feel right having the Shield all together, especially with that video segment they did before the match. I felt that they need to be separate now. I mean, they have to do videos together when it involves Triple H. But when it comes to their own individual titles, they need to be separated because I'm just not getting it. I'm not feeling it from these guys. Now, the match itself, and I know I could talk about what happened previous before that. I will get to that in a minute. But the match itself was okay. The person who was the most highlighted here was Roman Reigns. Oh my goodness. He took out, who was it? I believe he took out Zack Ryder, Kofi Kingston, RVD. I think he took out RVD. He took out, who else did he take out? Both of the primetime players. I believe, no, he didn't. He took out Titus O'Neil of the primetime players. And as I said before, they're pretty much not being pushed much anymore. And I hope they will be pushed. I could be wrong, but I don't believe they're being pushed. But you can see that Roman Reigns is the one that's been pushed here. He was put in a prominent spot. I loved it. I want to see Roman Reigns get over. I want to see what he can do once he loses those titles and then branches off on his own. He has, well, we don't know if he has 4 of the 5 tools yet. He has the look. He sounds like he can have the voice. In other words, the mic ability. He sounds like he could do some really good work in the ring. The feel, not the sound. He could have all those things, but he needs to branch off on his own. We still got to wait. It's still too soon. But he was the one that was spotlighted. And at the end, Seth Rollins, who also was spotlighted to a point, he did a good job, but he's no Roman Reigns. In the end, we had the Usos, we had Dolph, and we had Daniel Bryan nailing his ass. And in the end, who is the one that wins? It is Daniel Bryan over Seth Rollins, and that's how the show ended. I found that was a good way to end the show. The crowd loved it, and that was good. Now, the last two things I'm going to talk about is, I don't believe I didn't talk about CM Punk, but just in case I didn't talk about it, I'll make a brief overview of it. I enjoyed this segment of CM Punk. The crowd was willing, no, I didn't talk about it, I'm sorry. The crowd literally took CM Punk in their arms and breastfed the man. That's how over he was. I love that CM Punk spoke in a way that not only touched the people, touched what's going on in Chicago, touched how he felt about the Blackhawks, but he also touched about how he rises to adversity. And seeing that he's like this more than shows he can be a very great heel, but he can even be as great of a face as well. Now, when Paulie came out, he did his good talking points. He is still promoting his feud, which I'm not bored of. And after it was all over with the beatdown and how Punk was going after him because his, what was it called, the scooter wouldn't work, was funny. I enjoyed it. I'm glad that Ryback is working with Paul Heyman because Ryback can't talk. I don't like bullies. Just don't talk, Ryback, please. But this promotes how well Ryback is going to be stretching with a Paul Heyman, even after the feud is over, I believe. Am I interested in seeing Paul Heyman with... I'll put it to you like this. Paul Heyman with Ryback versus CM Punk. I'm not interested in seeing Ryback at all with CM Punk. But having Paul Heyman there makes it interesting, and that's why I still love this feud. And pretty much Curtis Axel's kind of fallen off the radar due to the fact of the storyline. I don't believe they're going to get rid of him directly. There's a good chance that CM Punk may still go after the IC Championship. That's what I'm hoping for, so that will spotlight Curtis later. Finally, the one thing I'm going to talk about, and I know this is kind of a long video, it's a lot to talk about, is the Road family. Seeing Cody and Dustin, this is how epic it was. I did not expect Gold Dust with Cody. That's the reason I'm watching. Seeing them nailing the Shield makes me feel like they're going after Triple H. They're going to get back at Triple H what happened to their dad. They're not going after the Shield because of Big Show. They're not going after the Shield, period. They want to get their hands on Triple H and Stephanie. That's how I feel it is. Cody is so over now that when he comes back, he'll be a monster. And that makes me happy as hell because that's what I want to see. I'm hoping he'll team up with Goldust because it will really give him more building and more momentum. I just want it temporarily, maybe for a month, maybe two, and then he springboards off on his own to deal with the World Championship and Damian. Damian is the final step for Cody to become World Champion. And that's what I want to see. I'm more interested in seeing this than I will be of Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan. I had to think about this for a minute because I wanted to make sure I was right, and I am right. I want to see Cody Rhodes become World Champion. And I really believe he will be through this. How to rate the show? I'll give it a B. It's actually pretty good. It's a little lower than the show before it, but it's still a good show. And I hope you enjoyed this Zane review. And subscribe and comment to my channel. Give me a thumbs up. I'm sorry it's a little long, but this was a lot to talk about. You guys have a good day.